4 more weeks until we lock the playoff picture, and genuinely anybody can make a run for the spot in the top 6. Here you see the fans who've lined up to cheer on their favorite teams as Licorice strolling into the studio with Jensen and Sneaky in tow. They'll be facing off against Someday and Ryu, who were preparing for the matchup not too long ago in their ready room out on stage as we speak. Hello and welcome everyone to the NA LCS Countdown, where for 30 minutes we follow the trends of the league and preview the day's matches until the timer reaches 0 and we jump into Champion Select. Let's start with the schedule. Taking a look, first up, 100 Thieves and Cloud9 faced off on Summoner's Rift, followed by CLG versus Clutch, with Team Liquid taking on FlyQuest for Game 5. For those looking for the NA LCS Lounge, Freak, Sneaky, and Meteos will be bringing you Echo Fox versus TSM today on Riot Games 2. Looking at that first matchup, though, Cloud9 fans might be bummed they lost to Echo Fox, but let's be honest, they're still supporting a top 2 team.
And I think their loss to Echo Fox was not super damning. They played a really volatile top lane and a losing bot lane, and they just didn't play it that well. So their top lane gets exploded, their bot lane loses kind of on its own, and then next thing you know, the game's snowballing out of control.
Yeah, and I think both of those teams are still really good, right? Cloud9 lost to the only team that's beaten them. It's just ended up happening twice.
Right.
And they've counterpicked for Licorice's top side so many times. That was just kind of the other side of the coin where it goes wrong, when you throw so much of your strategy towards that top lane counterpick working and then it gets ganked and dies a bunch.
Yeah,
it's not going to work.
Dardoch took over that lane completely, just had like triple his regular jungle proximity up there.
That Dardoch-Huni duo, man, they are a terror here in the North American LCS. Let's hear from the owner of Cloud9, Jack, to get his thoughts on his team's performance so far.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with Jack, the owner of Cloud9. Cloud9 having such a strong performance so far in the split, holding down second place in the standings. I have to ask, what's it like to lose in the offseason?
It was pretty rough getting the negative feedback and criticism from Reddit, but I totally understood where they were coming from because they didn't have all the information that we had. It feels really good, though, to get on stage and be able to prove that we actually put together a better team than people thought.
So with the negativity from Reddit and community alike, that aside, coming into this split, what were your expectations like for this team, and have they met them so far?
Coming into the split, I felt really strong about how we would end up. All of the players on the team had the correct mindset. They're very professionally minded, and what I mean by that is that they're passionate about learning. They're really curious on how they can make themselves better, and they, give and receive criticism really well. So they had the right boxes checked on a team that was going to learn well and perform well in the long term. It's really nice to see that in the short term it's also come out positive.
And I want to know, what were your first impressions on bringing Licorice in? Because when he first came out and when he was announced, people were hesitant on his performance.
Licorice specifically, we had a ton of scrims with him. We essentially used him as E-United was a team that we warmed up against almost every single weekend before summer split last year. So we saw a lot of reps with Licorice and how he played against Impact. So we knew what we were getting when we picked him up. So, all that information was not available to everybody out there. So they thought, oh my God, what is this team doing? They lost the offseason. But the truth was we knew exactly what we were getting, and we had high expectations from him.
Now, comparing this roster of Cloud9 with ones in the past, how strong is this team?
This team in particular, I believe, is the best suited with their mindset to do better than any team we've ever had historically. So I have really high expectations. I think we're going to do really well this year.
Performance has been outstanding so far in this split. Is this going to be the split where we see another Cloud9 banner go up in the studio?
I'm not really so focused on NA LCS split wins. It would be fantastic to have more, but I really want to see us come into Worlds with an entire year of working hard with the right mindset so that we can do well internationally.
Excellent goal going for Wards. Good luck in the next game, and back to the desk.
Thank you very much, Avali.
Where's Twitter, Jack?
Yeah.
Jack had been talking so much game on Twitter, just rubbing it in everyone's face.
Yeah,
and then
he has an image for every game.
You can't be 100% flame all the time, right? You gotta have a little bit of that redemption. Yeah. It's a nice contrast there, or a nice way to explain the contrast of the information that the team was working with and that they came into the season with in terms of the way they made their decisions around picking up Licorice to what the community had when evaluating this player at first glance.
Yeah, I think they obviously had much more scrim knowledge in these teams, but that's also not to say that they didn't trade up in the scouting grounds draft so they could also pick a top laner to give themselves some insurance in case it didn't work out as well as they thought it would. So they definitely did their prep work, but I think he's also holding some of his cards still.
Right, we'll get an opportunity to speak to 100 Thieves coach Prawley later in the show, but I want to hear from Captain Flowers and Azael, who are going to be bringing you that matchup in just about 24 minutes. So, gentlemen, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good, Dash. Thank you very much. For 100 Thieves, though, I'd like to see them shore up some of the issues that we've heard stem from in-game communication so far.
Yeah, exactly. Medios had talked about this quite a bit in his interview a couple weeks ago, talking about the fact that the team felt even a little bit tilted, to use his words, that they weren't always on the same page, they weren't really lined up in who was going to be their in-game leader, who was going to be the shot caller, and you can see that carrying over to the performance on Summoner's Rift. You really need to have a cohesive strategy and everyone buying into that strategy to find success against the best teams.
It's one of those things that when it's missing, you can really feel the impact of that not being there. And while some may point to Cloud9's Lucian pick last week as a red flag, it's important to note that Reaper's champion select was textbook C9 in the split so far.
Exactly. Some people were going as far to call it, a disrespectful pick to pick Lucian against Huni. Oh, it's his pick. You can't do that. But this is what Cloud9 has been doing all split long. They've been going for top lane counter picks. They have put the confidence in Licorice to play these high variance, high octane carry matchups. Even last time against Huni, playing the Jace, he's brought out the Kled, he's brought out Camille and various other carry picks. And sometimes it's just not going to work out. When you are playing carry versus carry, he's playing against who is, in my opinion, the best top laner in the league, Huni. And Dardoch was up there so much and really did swing that matchup. So I don't think it's really any cause for concern for C9 just because it didn't work out this one time. Their opponent simply played better on the top side of the map.
Right, taking the Lucian into Huni. Just because the guy's known for the pick doesn't mean he owns the pick. We'll probably see some more of that kind of a matchup in the future, but that's what we're looking at for game one for now. Back to you, Dash.
What are you guys' thoughts there?
I mean, I pretty much mostly agree. On the side of 100 Thieves, though, it is very concerning when you have so many veterans. Too many cooks kind of comes up there where they're trying to find a play style and everyone has a different opinion, a play style that they've been playing their whole career, and it's hard to adjust so quickly.
Yeah, I think 100 Thieves has some of the ingredients for a successful team, but that doesn't mean it's always going to form up or that it will ever form up. So they kind of hit rock bottom with that long losing streak right before winning against CLG, and we'll see how that last week of practice went.
Right, Mark, you talk about maybe too many cooks. One of the ways that can manifest a lot of times is in the length of the game and the inability to close, right? If you're not on the same page, you're not actually moving around the map together, you're not taking advantage.
Yeah, they have the longest average game time and the longest average win time. It speaks to the fact that they don't have a clear play style. Sometimes Medios and Aframu tag up for first blood, and that's great. But other than that, they pretty much just seem to default in this really slow games where finally their veteran experience kicks over and they can start winning these games through better decision making. But that's not really a play style choice, it feels like.
Right, now
I think they're lucky to be 5-5. For what it's worth.
Lucky to be 5-5. All right, interesting. So we'll see if the match has any effect on the standings, which it likely will, as Cloud9 are sitting at second at 8-2, 100 Thieves, as Jack just mentioned, fifth at 5-5. That leaves FlyQuest and TSM in sixth, with Counterlogic Gaming and Optic Gaming tied for eighth. Now, looking at those rankings, what are some of the teams you've pinned to either move up or down in the standings in the weeks to come?
Well, one thing that definitely happened is Team Liquid being at 6-4 with that downward trajectory they've had very recently is disappointing to see because it looked like they could pick up wins so easily early on in the season. But they fell on some hard times there with the C9 Echo Fox week where they could have solidified themselves as a top team. And then they also lost to Golden Guardians. So speaking of rock bottom, that's it for this Team Liquid team. So they have to get better.
Yeah, and with that in mind, they are looking like they're trying to diversify their playbook a little bit, where they took red side twice last week and gave counterpick to Impact, which is something they don't do generally speaking, and they tried to play up to that side and it wasn't really working out.
Yeah, and with that being said, I don't think that Team Liquid is going to be good, but if Team Liquid plays the style they did early on in the season where they're ganking bottom lane nonstop and trying to snowball through double lift, I think they'll win a lot more than 60% of their games, which is their current win rate. So that means even though they've lost 3 of 4, I feel like they will trend up from here.
Fair enough. What about the team tied with them in the standings? Clutch.
I mean, you talk about teams lucky to be where they are. There was a week where it felt like, Clutch should have gone 0-2, and they stole both of those wins just against TSM and Optic 2 weeks ago. And then FlyQuest versus TSM last week was actually pretty convincing. And one of the things that helped them kind of secure and solidify their position in the rankings is Lyra on Skarner. He's so much more comfortable looking on this champion with a fast clear speed as opposed to some of the slower tanks that we've been seeing. It's really been great for them, as well as the fact that their mid and bot have generally been playing well, and top is not a problem, which was one of the concerns coming into the season.
And I think that the 2 TSM wins, you see the TSM brand and you think impressive wins. You look at the TSM that's been playing this year, those are not impressive wins.
Right.
So yes, Clutch Game is on the 4-game winning streak. I don't expect them to be tied for third at the end of the split, which would make me think that they would trend downwards in future weeks. Lyra being on Skarner is a band-aid on a really big problem right now because he hasn't looked good on any of the other junglers. Skarner's something you can hard farm with to get to the mid and late game where the team wants him to be, but he hasn't been able to reach that point on other champions.
Yeah, 3 of those 4 wins coming on Skarner. You ban that away. What does this team look like?
Maybe we'll find out today. Yeah. Let's talk about the team that's alone at the top. Echo Fox. I mean, obviously they can't go any further up.
Yeah, so you are maintaining or going down. But with that said, I think you can expect them to maintain that dominance. With their win over Cloud9 last week, it pretty much solidified them as the team to beat in the LCS. They have such strengths that while they do have their own weaknesses, they're able to overpower their opponents.
Yeah, and I was always thinking that this team looked a lot like the 2016 version of Immortals with Huni in the top lane and Adrian in support. So we put some stats to kind of see exactly how that would rank up. And as far as league ranking, they are fairly similar to that 2016 Immortals squad with a few differences. Obviously, the 10-0 record, and you kind of forget how dominant that team really was. Compare the difference of gold at 25 minutes between that squad and the fact that Immortals got first blood in every single game up until this point in the split. So yes, Echo Fox is good, but by no means are they historically good like that Immortals team was back in spring of 2016.
And the most important number to look at for me is the goal difference at 25, whereas that explodes for Immortals with their clean play and how decisive they were. Echo Fox, we've seen a lot of mid-game throws out of them, and that's why that number doesn't quite jump up to the crazy number it was before. Also a little bit slower meta, to be fair, but it is indicative of their playstyle where they make mistakes in the mid-game, and then they have to kind of focus down post 30 minutes.
All right, fair enough. There you have it. The team at the top still looking good. When we come back from break, we look at the win conditions for Game 1, and these two share their top lane tier list for the first 10 games played. As we go to commercial, let's listen on this week's mic check, which looks behind the scenes of the 100 Thieves versus Counterlogic Gaming game. 2 games.
I think my voice tone is pretty low usually, so it's like hard to hear.
You have such a deep voice, so masculine. Bard is better.
I think Bard is a little better for zoning.
Yeah.
So stop Tarek, engage.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Let's do it, baby.
Can you back up?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, I can look at this guy.
Yeah.
Do you have any CC?
Oh.
Oh,
Nice try,
nice try. Yeah, I can portal you right here. There's no words.
They're not going top side.
Ezra, no, I can try. Ezra has E.
Ezra, no, you. I ignited.
Get top side. Ezra, top side. Don't flash, okay?
Go, 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 go.
I don't have jump for 5. Got him.
We can kill this guy too. Hey, get the tower, get the tower, get the tower, get the tower. They're gonna be walking up through the jungle right there.
You can look.
Look,
Sides there, I'm opening. We got it.
Nice. I can jump.
I got Ezreal too.
Ezra, go Ezra. Oh, no.
Nice.
No flash. Keep going. Yes. I'm gonna push mid.
I have rapid fire cannon, okay? Now Tristana is gonna get shit on me, okay?
Okay.
You guys want me to go lock it?
I got it.
Bard! Oh,
Come back.
That was nice. Just get the next mid wave.
Help it.
Nice.
I got Nard.
Going for Nard.
Tank.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I cannot go on silent in this game. Bard is good too. Look, let's go.
Okay.
Bard. Nice.
Yo, Sign is no flash.
Shit.
Wait, come top. I can look top. Come top. Come top, okay?
Coming.
Come top. Play visions. If
There's no words. Watch the pink. Hug right.
Wait.
They're on it.
I ulted.
I have smite.
I
I
ulted.
think they base. We should just get it.
9 seconds. Watch Ezreal.
Slow.
Guys, come. We just have to rush it.
Okay,
We just have to start it.
Let's go.
Okay, they're gonna come.
Yeah, 5.
We have to defend our base after.
Alright, we need to go sign now. Go. No. They're gonna finish. Go.
Nice.
Everyone over the wall. Back up.
I can't go over the wall.
Stay good.
5.
Kill Sam. I stun. Corky. Ezreal on the pin. I'm dead. He's dead.
Nice.
They lost. Oh. Alright.
What a showing from 100 Thieves. They outplayed CLG and deserve this win.
Only 4 more weeks until we lock the playoff picture, and genuinely anybody can make a run for the spot in the top 6. Here you see the fans who've lined up to cheer on their favorite teams as Licorice strolling into the studio with Jensen and Sneaky in tow. They'll be facing off against Someday and Ryu, who were preparing for the matchup not too long ago in their ready room out on stage as we speak. Hello and welcome everyone to the NA LCS Countdown, where for 30 minutes we follow the trends of the league and preview the day's matches until the timer reaches 0 and we jump into Champion Select. Let's start with the schedule. Taking a look, first up, 100 Thieves and Cloud9 faced off on Summoner's Rift, followed by CLG versus Clutch, with Team Liquid taking on FlyQuest for Game 5. For those looking for the NA LCS Lounge, Freak, Sneaky, and Meteos will be bringing you Echo Fox versus TSM today on Riot Games 2. Looking at that first matchup, though, Cloud9 fans might be bummed they lost to Echo Fox, but let's be honest, they're still supporting a top 2 team.
And I think their loss to Echo Fox was not super damning. They played a really volatile top lane and a losing bot lane, and they just didn't play it that well. So their top lane gets exploded, their bot lane loses kind of on its own, and then next thing you know, the game's snowballing out of control.
Yeah, and I think both of those teams are still really good, right? Cloud9 lost to the only team that's beaten them. It's just ended up happening twice.
Right.
And they've counterpicked for Licorice's top side so many times. That was just kind of the other side of the coin where it goes wrong, when you throw so much of your strategy towards that top lane counterpick working and then it gets ganked and dies a bunch.
Yeah,
it's not going to work.
Dardoch took over that lane completely, just had like triple his regular jungle proximity up there.
That Dardoch-Huni duo, man, they are a terror here in the North American LCS. Let's hear from the owner of Cloud9, Jack, to get his thoughts on his team's performance so far.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with Jack, the owner of Cloud.
I mean, that's what that means.
Yeah, Haunter and Flame are 2 players who don't get any help from their teams. They have very limited champion pools in what they're actually winning with. So Haunter on GP is able to get a ton of leads, very low jungle proximity, and they just play really well when he's on GP. Flame, much the same way, doesn't get much help. So they are basically the same player to me. 2 and 3 is pretty interchangeable. And Licorice gets a ton of help from his team.
Yeah, so if I just want to talk about why I have Haunter below Licorice and Flame is, yes, Haunter has been good on some picks, specifically Gangplank, but Haunter is winless on all of his other champions. I want to talk really quickly about Licorice before we jump back to Haunter, though, as to why I have Licorice so high. Statistically, he's actually at the top of pretty much everything. He has a higher forward percentage than Huni as far as map pressure, a higher CSD than Huni as far as that goes. He has the most kills for top laners, and a lot of people say it's because they're camping for Licorice. They're not. He only has the 5th highest jungle proximity of top laners in the North American LCS, so that's what puts him, to me, above Flame and Haunter.
My one problem with Licorice is he has the highest death percentage of any top laner, so when things go wrong, it's basically on his back. We've seen the games where he goes boom, like the Lucian game. The Jace game, he was unable to team fight with it, and so while he does get a ton of help in the draft, more than anyone else, arguably, when the team does falter and Jensen and the rest of the team are still playing okay, it's usually off Licorice.
Yeah, but when we're talking about deaths, Haunter has more deaths than any other top laner
Their
in the
games
LCS.
are longer. They play long games.
So that's another reason that I would have Haunter down, though. So yes, his GP is godlike. He's won 4 of his GP games. He's lost the 6 games where Haunter hasn't been on Gangplank. So he's overextending in lane, and he applies a lot of pressure, but he's not smart or as smart about the way he applies that pressure, and as you mentioned, doesn't work very well with the team.
Chicken or the egg argument a little bit here, because I would argue that TSM, as we said, has some of the worst teamwork in the league right now, and Haunter does get punished, understandably. He has the 2nd highest gold difference at 10, and GP is the only champion he can hard carry enough on to win, is kind of what I'd say, whereas when he gets stuck on the Ornn, stuck on some of these more team-focused champions, they've messed up dives around him, and Mike Young's feeding away some kills.
Either way, both of them making it into the top 4. If we push our way down the list, something that jumps out to me as well is how highly ranked Solo is on your list, Jad, as opposed to where he falls over here on Marks.
Yeah, so for me, I think Solo does a lot more with less than other top laners in similar positions. He has one of the lowest jungle proximities in the league as far as how often they gank for him, but he's still the only top laner to lead his team in damage percentage. He has the fewest deaths of all top laners in the league, and they've actually won 6 of 10 of their games, so he's not the reason for them to be losing, which I actually can't say about some of these other top laners, and he's had some pretty good games without help.
And the reason I have him lower is because by most individual metrics, he's kind of far down that list in terms of CSD, XP differential, these kinds of things, and he has really low kill participation. 2nd lowest. The only person under him in most individual categories is Zig, and that's why I have a hard time bumping him too high up when it feels like he's more of an afterthought on his team.
All right, one last guy I want to talk about here, Impact. This is a guy that, you know, on any other given month, we might be singing his praises and saying he's the best in the NALCS, but his entire history in this league has been one of peaks and valleys. You both kind of have him sitting in the middle to the bottom half right now.
Yeah, you talk about the highs and the lows for him. Right now, he's somewhere on the lower end. We know that, like, in summer last year, he was struggling a ton, bounced back a fair amount. He looks better than then, but it's really not a great meta for him. He really does his best work on tanks, and there's very few that are competitively viable right now, and it feels like he's struggling to find his place on that team.
Yeah, and I actually had him lower before I did a little bit more digging into this list because of the fact that he is not getting much pick priority, and he's often playing tanks, which are going to lose lane to other things, and he still is involved in a fair number of early kills. But all the other metrics, especially the recency bias that you tend to have on these lists with how he's looked in the last 4 games, put him kind of where he's at right now, which when you think before the season where you expected Impact to be, this is much lower, and it's because he hasn't been performing.
Another big name that's pretty low on the list for both of you, Someday.
And this is why we made sure to say that this is a performance-based list. Like, no way is Someday the 8th or 9th best top laner in the league, but 100 Thieves has really been struggling to find a way to get involved with him. We've seen synergy at points between Meteos and Ryu and Meteos and Afromu, but it doesn't feel like there's any synergy with his team, and he is getting just given counter picks sometime, but not winning hard enough and not doing anything in these games.
And a lot of times Gnar is kind of looked at this split as you play Gnar well, you are a good top laner. Someday's played more Gnar than anyone else. He's played 6 Gnar games, and he has the worst laning stats of all the Gnars in the LCS. So for a player who should be skill checking against the rest of the league, and you expect based on the name brand recognition that he will beat them, he's actually losing to all of them, which is pretty damning for a player of his caliber and his history.
Some thoughts on the top lane here through 10 games. Of course, we've still got 8 more to go in the season. We'll track their progress throughout the split. I want to move on to some predictions, so feel free to boo these guys if you disagree with any of the teams that they've chosen for the day. Throwing them up on the screen, I believe that you guys only differ in one prediction of the day.
Wow, CLG Jack coming back.
Go figure. It's the CLG game of all games, Jad. Explain yourself.
Clearly, I have not been punished enough for predicting CLG.
Well, you masochism.
So I was watching CLG's documentary series, and the confidence that Zix said they would 2-0 this week really struck me with how much the team has been looking to improve. They've mentioned a lot of things about how they've transitioned Huhi over to the primary shot caller and how it's been bad and how they've taken the losses, but they are seeing improvement. And I do think that Clutch Gaming is potentially a little
overhyped a little bit.
At 6-4, so I think it's a super close game, and I may as well throw it in there.
And I can respect you going with your gut, because my gut was like, this feels narratively like the perfect time for TSM to find an upset win over Echo Fox. It was really close last time.
And then you didn't pick them?
And
I chickened out, so that's
you
why
just
I'm saying,
explained to me why you would pick a team.
I'm just saying that when the upset happens, I should have listened to my gut.
Ugh. Okay, well, that's fair. We'll make sure to make fun of you for it when it happens. But here in this second one, what's your reasoning behind Clutch over CLG?
I think while, yes, Clutch Gaming are perhaps overperforming a little bit, we haven't really seen anything out of CLG that inspires confidence. That, you know, that loss last week to 100 Thieves was one of the weakest games we've seen in the LCS thus far. It was like a crazy situation where they're fighting in mid lane for 3 minutes straight and was not very impressive. So while it's nice to watch the behind the scenes thing and say everything's turning around, until I see that on stage, I'm not going to be it.
That's game 2. Game 1 is 100 Thieves versus Cloud9. We spoke to Jack earlier. Let's now hear from Prolly, just a moment ago.
We started off pretty strong. The players kind of just played their own game. And I think once we started to strive for more consistency, it kind of broke down like the natural play style of the team. So we had to like rebuild that in the last couple weeks, just trying to get more consistency in kind of our strategy. If we're just a team who doesn't have a like consistent play style, I think it becomes really risky going into like playoffs and further on. So breaking down how we play into steps is, I think, really important. I want to get some revenge on them. Last time, I think we had a match that was not fun to watch. So hopefully this one will be a lot more entertaining and a lot more on our side of the street.
I mean, I think everybody would like a more entertaining and fun game.
Yes, please.
As I heard,
I think Rio just
a groan
did a
or
big
something
yawn.
let out behind. We're going to do win conditions for this first game. We've got 100 Thieves versus Cloud9. Let's throw them up on the board. Mark, I believe you're first.
Yes, you have given me C9 despite putting me on the 100 Thieves side, so I hope they don't throw anything
Just
at
trying
me.
to confuse
Talk
people.
to C9,
The thing that I need C9 to avoid is the jungle bot lane synergy. So watch out for Afromu, watch out for Meteos over there. Don't let them sync up and pin Smoothie and Sneaky in their lane, because that's where they tend to struggle as C9 when their bot lane is getting destroyed. So just make sure that doesn't happen. You have them beat most other places, you'll be good.
Yeah, and for 100 Thieves, I do think they are the underdogs in this match, but I have 2 win conditions. It's make sure you're drafting enough initiation and also play through the bottom lane. So we mentioned at the top of the show how 100 Thieves plays the longest games in the LCS and has even longer win times. Those are sometimes stretched out because they have trouble finding fights. So if they can get to those points where they're able to find fights and Afromu's not behind, everything should technically work the way it's supposed to.
With our last minute here, do you think after the loss suffered against Echo Fox that Cloud9 might look to start week 6 here with a different strategy, perhaps moving away from the Licorice counter picks and the attention up there?
I would like to see them do it. They are definitively in second place. I understand battling for first last week, but you have some room here towards the second half of the season to start experimenting with different draft and team strategies. So I understand if you just want to win every game you possibly can, but if they want to start branching out a little bit now, right before 8.4 hits and you lose control of the meta, this is a good time to do it.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Time to watch some League of Legends, so we're going to toss over the casters to get us into game 1 of the day.